Let's talk about anger, not the kind that flares up in traffic, not the 1-second spark when your coffee spills or your flight gets delayed. I'm talking about the kind that builds slowly in toxic relationships, like smoke under a closed door. The kind that makes you feel like your soul is being cornered. You tell yourself you're okay. You tell yourself it's just one more insult, one more dismissive sigh, one more twisted accusation, and then one day, you snap, you shout. You say things you regret, you feel powerful in that moment, but not for long. Because afterwards comes the shame, the confusion, the sense that somehow, despite everything they did, you became the villain. Sound familiar? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's Stoic wisdom in its rawest form. And yet, it's also one of the hardest things to live by. Because when someone disrespects you, when someone keeps poking the wound, your instinct is to react. You want to defend yourself. You want justice. You want release. But here's the truth. Anger isn't strength. It feels like fire. It feels like power. But most of the time, it's just pain in disguise. And when you don't control it, anger stops being your shield. It becomes your jailer. At its core, anger is a reaction, not a response. It's the nervous system going into survival mode. It's your brain screaming, "I'm not safe. I need to fight." But that instinct, while natural, can become a trap, especially in toxic relationships. Why? Because toxic people thrive on your reaction. They don't need to win the argument. They just need you to lose your balance. They want to see you overreact. They want you yelling, defending, justifying, because the moment you do, they gain control. Think about that. Every time you explode, you validate their story. See, you're the crazy one. Every time you raise your voice, they lower theirs. And suddenly, you're the aggressor. And worst of all, you start to doubt yourself. You start thinking, maybe I really am the problem, but you're not. You're just caught in a cycle where pain feeds pain. So what do the Stoics teach us? They teach us this: you may not control what someone says. You may not control their tone, their cruelty, or their silence, but you absolutely control what you do next. That space, that tiny pause between what happens and how you react, that's your power. It's small, it's quiet, but it changes everything. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a moment where you felt the anger rising? Your chest tightens, your voice sharpens, your hands start moving without thought, but just before it spills out, you catch it, you breathe. You stay still, you observe it like a storm on the horizon. That moment is not weakness. It's mastery. That moment is the Stoic way, not to suppress, not to pretend you're okay, but to see the anger for what it is, and still choose not to be controlled by it. There's a quote I keep coming back to. It's simple but deep. He who angers you, conquers you. Let that sink in. If someone can make you lose your peace with a single look or a single sentence, then they own a part of you. Do you really want to live like that? Where someone else dictates your mood, where their behavior determines your worth. You're worth more than that. The Stoics knew that life would test us. They didn't preach avoidance. They weren't naive. They knew betrayal, heartbreak, injustice, all of it. But they trained themselves to respond, not react. So the next time someone tries to bait you, the next time a toxic person pokes, prods, or provokes, don't give them the reward of your rage. Instead, give them silence, give them composure, give them nothing to feed on, and walk away, not as the victim, but as the one who stayed in control. So if anger is the bait, what's the Stoics' defense? It's called the pause. A moment of space, a breath of awareness, a deliberate choice to observe, not absorb. The Stoics didn't teach people to become robots. They didn't ask us to suppress emotion. They asked us to befriend it so that we could see it clearly and choose wisely. Let me tell you something that changed everything for me. There's a technique I now use almost every day. I call it the 3-second rule. Not the one about food, but the one that saves your peace. Here's how it works. When someone says something that triggers you, a sharp word, a passive-aggressive tone, a manipulative jab, instead of reacting, you pause. You give yourself just 3 seconds. 3 seconds to breathe, to blink, to shift from instinct to intention. In that space, you ask, what response honors who I want to be? That's it. You don't need to solve everything in that moment. You don't even need to reply. You just need to remember, this is not about them. It's about you, and whether you're willing to hand over your peace or hold it with both hands. Now here's the part most people get wrong. Detachment isn't coldness. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. It's not about being unreachable or emotionally unavailable. Detachment in the Stoic sense is about this. I will feel this fully, but I won't let it define me. You allow yourself to feel the sting, but you don't let it become your story. You can say, that hurt, without saying, that's who I am now. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can walk away without needing revenge, and that's real strength. Let me share a story. There was a time I was stuck in a cycle with someone I deeply cared about. Every time we fought, I would walk away feeling drained, confused, small. And I'd tell myself, next time, I'll stay calm, I'll be better. But the moment tension rose, I was right back in it, triggered. Reactive, on fire. It wasn't until I started journaling that I realized what was happening. Every fight was tapping into something older in me, a fear of being misunderstood, a need to be seen. A wound that kept reopening. That's when I understood. You can't master your reactions if you don't know what's being touched inside you. The Stoics weren't just teaching surface control, they were guiding us toward deep awareness. Because you can't pause something you haven't yet noticed. You can't detach from a story you haven't yet recognized as a story. So here's a simple daily practice. Stoic journaling for emotional clarity. Every evening ask yourself, 1. When today did I feel triggered? 2. What did I want to say or do in that moment? 3. What would a wiser version of me have done? Write it down. Be honest, not perfect. Over time, you start to notice patterns, certain phrases, certain tones, certain people, and with awareness comes power. Suddenly, you're not just reacting, you're rewiring. Now here's a hard truth. You can't always fix the relationship, but you can fix the way you show up in it. Sometimes, controlling your anger doesn't save the relationship, it just saves you. And that's okay. You don't have to be the hero who saves everything. You just have to stop being the one who sacrifices your peace to maintain a bond that's hurting you. So what does this look like, practically? Let's say your partner says something cruel. You feel it hit, that sting, right in your chest. In that moment, the old you might fire back with sarcasm, shut down in passive aggression, reopen every past wound in your memory bank. But the Stoic version of you calm, breathes, observes, reminds yourself, this is not about justice right now, this is about composure, and chooses silence, not as defeat, but as discipline. People think silence is submission. It's not. Silence is a strategy. It buys you time, it protects your energy. And more importantly, it forces the other person to face their own behavior without your emotional reaction to distract them. Because sometimes, when you stop reacting, you stop shielding them from the consequences of their own actions. And that's silence. That pause, it changes everything. Final reflection for this section. Next time you're about to react, ask yourself this. Do I want to feel better, or do I want to be better? One gives you relief. The other gives you growth. Choose growth. There comes a moment in every toxic relationship when you realize this isn't about fixing it anymore. It's about freeing yourself from it. You stop fighting to be understood. You stop hoping they'll change. You stop bargaining with your peace, and instead you begin the quiet journey of reclaiming your power, not with revenge. Not with one last speech or dramatic exit, but with something far more radical, letting go, with dignity. See, revenge is tempting. It feels good in your mind, the fantasy where they finally realize what they lost, where you say the perfect line, walk away in slow motion, and they crumble. But here's what the Stoics knew. The person who hurts you is already carrying their own punishment. They are trapped in a cycle of behavior they can't break. They keep destroying every bridge they cross. They lose respect, love, trust, over and over. And you're not here to teach them a lesson, you're here to learn yours. Epictetus said it best, when someone provokes you, remember, you are the one being tested. You are being tested. Will you lose yourself trying to win them? Will you let their chaos become your character? Or will you rise above, not with pride, but with principle? Because real power is quiet. It doesn't yell. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply walks away, unbothered, because it has nothing left to prove. Here's what reclaiming power actually looks like. Not responding to the bait, saying no without needing a long explanation, refusing to chase, argue, or prove your worth, blocking, unfollowing, unfriending, not from spite, but from self-respect, sitting in your discomfort and not escaping into their chaos again. Yes, it's hard. There will be days when you miss them. Days when you want to reach out just to feel something familiar, but then you remember you weren't in love, you were in survival mode. And no one deserves to live in that. One of the greatest Stoic truths is this: the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius. The pain you're feeling now, the silence, the emptiness, the withdrawal, it's not a detour, it is the path. Because in this space of letting go, you finally meet yourself again. Not the version they judged, not the version that was always defending, but the version that is whole, wise, and no longer available for emotional games. Let me be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean reopening the door. Forgiveness is when you no longer carry the weight of their actions. It's when you can say, that happened, and it no longer defines me. You can forgive and still never speak to them again. You can let go with love, not for them, but for your own future, because carrying anger, bitterness, or fantasies of payback, that doesn't hurt them. It hurts you. It steals your sleep. It clouds your joy. It blocks the peace that's trying to enter your life. So here's a powerful question to ask yourself tonight. If I stopped trying to win this battle, what kind of life could I finally build? What friendships could grow? What passions could return? What kind of self-respect could blossom when you no longer live in reaction to someone else's dysfunction? This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. You don't need revenge, you need freedom. And that starts by refusing to carry what isn't yours. Let's end with this. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And staying silent doesn't mean you lost. It means you finally chose yourself. So if today feels heavy, if you're wondering whether it was the right choice to leave, to detach, to stay calm instead of fighting, remember this: the strongest thing you'll ever do is walk away with peace when you could have stayed to prove a point. And when you do that, you don't just reclaim your power, you reclaim your soul. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. Every week we explore how Stoicism can help you heal, grow, and rise. Not by changing the world, but by changing the way you meet it. Let's keep walking this path together. You're not alone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. No retaliation, no final text. No desperate attempt to explain your side of the story, just peace, quiet, stillness, not because you gave up, but because you finally understood your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. You don't need closure from them, you don't need validation, you just need to close the door from the inside so you can begin again, stronger, clearer, and completely in command of who you are becoming. Let them wonder, let them spin. You're free now, and nothing is louder than a soul that's finally at peace.